Low-budget science fiction is really hard. Like, basically, every single thing you need to do in sci-fi costs money. Everything has to be created in some way or another. It's all a custom job. I mean, with straight horror movies, you can go to a cabin in the woods or you can use a lot of real world elements to keep costs down. But with sci fi, the bills just come rolling in. True, you can minimize where possible and do a single location, so you're limiting the number of sets that you have to build, etc. But it still has to be made. And for that reason, I have a tremendous amount of respect for lower budget sci fi movies. I mean, sci fi horror is a favorite subgenre of mine just in general. So when I heard about Ash, I got kind of excited. Now, granted, this movie is not super low budget by any means. I mean, the best that I could find, it cost around $10 million, which is still substantial for a horror film. But for science fiction, that's pretty small. And they use the money here wisely in that it's a single location sci-fi film. It takes place on a planet base in the middle of space, while a group of explorers are looking for a new planet that they may be able to colonize as Earth is dying. It's kind of like the plot for Interstellar. However, this small group of travelers end up making a discovery that puts the whole thing in jeopardy. But this movie doesn't really care about that, and that's where it kind of falls apart. Ash is a 2025 movie about a woman who wakes up in a remote base on another planet where everyone's been killed, and she has to figure out what happened. The movie centers on Raya, a woman who wakes up in her room who's clearly been in some kind of a fight, but unable to remember what happened. She walks through the planet base and sees her crew members are dead and alarms going off. Now, as she's walking through the base, she's visited by Brian, the crew member that was monitoring them from a satellite in space and had come down when he couldn't raise anyone on the radio. The two of them try to figure out and put the pieces together as to what happened before the air runs out of the base and they have to flee. Now, this is a solid setup, and it opens the door to a fascinating mystery. And as you would imagine, as Raya is exploring the base, some of her memories come back and reveals pieces of her past, the missions that the crew was on, and some of the reasons why the crew are dead. Now, the ironic thing about this movie is I mentioned how tough it is to make low-budget sci-fi because everything costs money to build. So a lot of times, it's the visuals that come off looking the roughest. Sets look cheap, production design's lacking, everything feels like it was shot in one corridor that they just used over and over again. And that actually isn't the issue here. Like, visually, I was impressed with what this film did. No, it's not Interstellar, but the base itself and the things in the base all look real enough to sell the story. The production design, the lighting, the various room sets all feel very well done. The issue I had with the movie was the thing that theoretically costs no money at all to build: the script. The movie sets itself up as a mystery that just stops being interesting. So it starts to just kind of add all sorts of sci-fi elements in order to make it interesting, but it all just feels kind of tacked on and doesn't really make sense in the context of the movie as a whole. Now, what I love about sci-fi movies is it has the ability to explore some deeper or headier themes of morality as we leave our world and travel to others, especially when making contact with an alien life form. It's essentially what's propelled the Star Trek franchise for like 60 years now. And there are kind of hints of this here. I mean, even something like Alien, which was just a slasher movie in space, had some commentary about when facing an unrelenting life form, how corporations just sort of treat their workers as devices to further their interests rather than actual people. Now, this movie seemed to want to do everything. It wanted to present the possibility of an intelligent life form, but it also wanted to have a unrelenting monster movie. And both end up just feeling shortchanged. And it's a shame, too, because the cast is good, the performances are all well done, and the effects are good quality. But what starts out as an interesting enough and compelling mystery is more focused on being trippy than tricky, and isn't really able to pull it all together. Eventually, it just sort of resorts to a very typical third act monster movie that stole from better movies like Thing or Alien, where it ends up just chasing a girl around a space station with not much more to say. I'd give this movie a C+, but let me know what you think.